Fucking Donkey Kong, dude. Every time.
We need animations for this.
Yeah. We need
Sound booth theater.
We need a bunch of
And
bananas.
now your hosts, Jeff Hayes, Ahmed Mahmoud, and Justin Thomas G.
That's us. That's the three of us. Those are examples of people who are hosting the show.
Jeff Hayes, Toronto Titan, Gary Furlong. You know, let's just name some names.
Yeah.
Will Watt. Will Watt's also here.
Yeah, he's in your booth right now.
Yeah, hey Will. He's not he's just hanging out in there. Not gonna make himself known to you all. Hello, how's everybody doing tonight? Say hello in the comments, in the chats. But Jeff, why don't you tell us, how are you?
I'm
new in Jeff
I'm doing almost good. Almost good.
Almost good.
Good enough that one of the reasons, the main reason I wanted to be at this listening party, is because I wanted to listen to the party. I wanted to listen to the production. I wanted to listen to
the Last Parsec, the very first.
A clear, what is it? A clear something of honor? A clear
understanding. Of honor.
I'm excited about it. We're starting up the new Wendigo Tales series, which, Necessary Evil was so much fun, and I just love hearing the new takes, like their takes on these genres. But the other reason I wanted to be on here was to make sure all of you guys know who watch the show, who hang with us, who have been waiting, and maybe knew that I was sick, that I will be narrating some Dungeon Crawler Carl for late tonight. And I'll be streaming it live.
What?
And I may even do a thing where I actually take the audio from the video and hand it off to the devs.
What?
And maybe put it on the platform for people to listen to.
What? With you making mistakes and cussing and shit?
Everything.
All of it.
No edits.
Zero edits.
Yeah. So, yes, sir.
The rough cut.
We're gonna call this type of thing cold reads.
Cold. Oh.
Yeah. And depending on if people actually care and go and download it from our app, we may keep doing it. It's an experiment.
Well,
experiment, yeah.
The grand scientist at work with his crazy experiments and his boxy laboratory. But not like a boxy laboratory. Oh, there we go. Okay, good segue.
Speaking of boxy laboratory, I listened to the set 4, the last 25% of Everybody Loves Large Chests, Volume 6. That is Mortimer. I listened to that today. Holy crap. Ahmed, god damn it, dude.
Look at him. He's just got a big grin on his face. He's just stoked.
Aaron knocked it out of the park.
Oh, he's quiet. We can't hear him. I think he's saying thank you, or he's saying spank you.
I imagine
spank you.
Thank you. Yeah. You guys are in for a crazy ride. And I really can't wait till we start releasing the music that we've been making over the past few years on our platform to listen to on its own. It's gonna be really exciting when that happens.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Oh yeah.
Boxy is coming out. I don't know, but we're submitting it next week. Probably. It seems likely.
It's getting there. The sound effects and the music. They're almost done.
So
this little polish, little spit shine at the end there.
Yep. A little bit.
And that's it. That's
So
it.
we have a little bit of news to talk about before the listening party starts.
Yes, the news. Da, 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 da.
Okay.
In today's news, what do we got, Jeff? This is a empty paper.
Okay. Today's news: Justin needs a notebook that has stuff in it.
Yes, this just in.
So if you
That's all
guys
I've
could
got.
maybe send that to us, I should probably put our PO box somewhere so that
Our
people
poo
can start
box?
sending us things. Yeah,
Oh, that's
our poo box.
POO
Yeah,
box.
yes. Not POO box.
PO box.
But yeah, so we have on the platform today, of course, what the subject is of this
I like
stream.
that.
We have the Last Parsecs, a clear understanding of honor
Last Parsec.
by John
And
Wick.
that's available on the platform. And what are the people gonna
They're gonna
put down for
they're
this
gonna
quality?
pay a whopping $0.00 for it.
Ooh,
So
what?
I know it sounds like we're very proud of what we do, and maybe you guys are reluctant to pull that much out of your wallets just to listen to a damn audiobook. Please give it a shot. $0.00. Once you listen to it, you will realize that it was not a big risk for you to take.
That it makes sense.
Exactly. It makes sense.
It does make sense.
Thank you, Barry White, Ahmed. So that's a big thing. Last Parsec. We're going to get into that more. Obviously, this is a Last Parsec, clear understanding of honor listening party. So I'll be telling you all about that before we get to the recording. But what else we got in the news? What else we got there, Jeff?
What else we got in the news is we've been getting fancy with our prices, actually.
Fancy,
kind of across the board. Last week, we released the entirety of Malevolent by Harlan Guthrie. And by the way, Harlan Guthrie, you guys, this dude is so super talented. Not only did he produce that thing, right, Malevolent, on his own, all performance, all sound effects,
writing,
all done. I mean, he wrote the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's all available for $0.00 on our platform too. I know. We're getting crazy about it, but I promise you, once you spend that money on Malevolent, you will not regret it after you listen to it. So give it a shot, guys. $0.00. The entirety of the Malevolent series, and also next week, we have two more episodes of The Stars Have Eyes by Neven Ilyev, all for the low price of $0.
Bing, bang, boom. $0. $0.
It's like
you can't beat those prices.
It's like a pattern.
Literally.
It's like a pattern.
Well, I mean, I guess we could pay you to listen to it, but we're not going that far.
Do that. Okay, but here's the thing. Back to Harlan Guthrie real
What
quick.
are we, the government?
Back to Harlan Guthrie real quick. There was a Kickstarter. Was that just yesterday?
That was yesterday or 2 days ago? Yesterday
or 2 days ago?
Harlan, let us know. He's there in the chat. I don't know if you can pull him up.
At us.
We've got some controversy about Harlan Guthrie. He's created a bit of a name for himself, and I guess
Harlan roped us into this project, right? He told us that this was happening. Sigil Entertainment is a company that does the artwork for Pinnacle Entertainment, so we got a big friend circle happening now.
Pocket
lead. Tuesday. It was Tuesday. So 2 days ago, the Kickstarter for S5E Superheroes 5th Edition, a new TTRPG that's been launched by Sigil Entertainment. They got funded immediately, pretty much, like while we were just doing the 1 hour stream there. And all the stretch goals, they keep having to add more stretch goals because people keep stretching the shit out of them. It's like if I were to let my brother borrow this shirt. And
William Letson, are you gonna take that?
Yeah.
Are you gonna take that?
It's just stretched and stretched and stretched. You guys are it's absurd how how overboard you're going with this Kickstarter. But keep going overboard, because you know what? They may need more stretch goals. There's already a $16,000 one that hasn't been met yet, right? They've just surpassed 15. So past 16, maybe SBT will have something else to offer. I don't know. We might need to keep up with them. So hey guys, keep throwing money at this thing. It looks so cool. The artwork is great. The concept is awesome. So yeah, go check them out. If you want to go to our Facebook page, you can find links there for the Kickstarter for S5E.
Another thing about the Sigil Kickstarter, actually, if I can jump in, is that I believe the author of A Clear Understanding of Honor,
Right.
John Wick, is heavily involved in this
There's
release.
far too many details. There's far too many details about this Kickstarter since we just joined like Monday. So I don't know exactly who's writing what. So Harlan Guthrie, if you can remind us in the comments what role John Wick took in this endeavor.
Okay, so it looks like two authors, Kevin Andrew Murphy and John Wick.
So Kevin Andrew Murphy is the one who actually wrote the fiction that we're going to be narrating.
Gotcha. Okay.
And Kevin Andrew Murphy also wrote one of the Necessary Evil tales, right, from Pinnacle Entertainment that we already have on our platform. So go check that out if you're curious, if you want to know what his writing is all about.
Don't you just love this? Don't you just love this?
Yes, scissoring. I love scissoring.
Intersectionality. That's what we're doing. We got Sigil Entertainment. We got John Wick. We got Pinnacle Entertainment. We got John Wick. We got, we got Kevin Andrew Murphy. It's all coming together. They both work. All right. What else do we got? I think we got some more. The amazing PDF adventure.
Right. Okay. So it's
another stretch goal.
It's one of the campaigns, right? Yeah. Okay. Great. So, I think it's time to talk about our show for today and what we're going to do.
Yes. Pinnacle Entertainment, Savage Worlds, Wendigo Tales. These are the words that come to mind when I think of Shane Hensley, John Wick.
Yeah.
Other people at Pinnacle Entertainment as well.
Yeah.
We've been working with Pinnacle for several months now. We started working with them doing the deep dive for the audiobook and deep dive for
Kringle Down.
Yeah, it was the deep dive, right? Kringle Down was our first one. And then we did A Necessary Evil, which is a fantastic setting, Savage World setting that is Wendigo Tales series of short stories that are available on our platform as well.
Yeah.
And that wrapped up, Necessary Evil wrapped up, and now we're on to our second batch of Wendigo Tales, which is The Last Parsec. Necessary Evil was superheroes. Last Parsec, sci-fi, baby.
Yeah.
Spaceships, space yetis, space rocks.
We're gonna have now 2 productions from Pinnacle that have yetis. Yeah.
That's right.
Kringle Down. Yeah.
That's right.
I came for the Yetis.
Yeah.
You are a Yeti.
Oh.
This is the voice of the
Yetis
Yeti.
came when they were scissoring.
Snow. Oh, don't worry. It's lemon. I'm thinking of the abominable snowman from Monsters Inc. Anyways, the Pinnacle Entertainment, amazing working with them. We got The Last Parsec off the ground every 2 weeks. What's that? Sully? Sully? Mike Wazowski. We got 2 weeks between episodes. So you got The Last Parsec, Clear Understanding of Honor, releasing today, which is available on our platform right now. If you don't want to listen to it here, fine. I don't blame you. Download it on our platform. Sign up for our platform. Download it now. Listen to it while you watch us if you want to. All the power to you. 2 weeks from now, we're going to have Scrapped coming out, which the author, I will find momentarily, But that's going to be narrated for the very first time. Audiobook narration by Mr. Harlan Guthrie, again, man of many talents.
Right.
And then 2 weeks after, another story, and another story, and another story. 6 times. Six times. So
yes,
you guys, you got a lot of amazing stories coming your way. And today is no exception. So
let's get this thing listened to, guys. Let's do this.
Let us do it. Let us do it.
Shit.
Thank you all. We'll be hanging in the chat.
Let's see this excellent cover.
Oh, it's a beautiful cover.
I love it.
Yes. The only thing missing is the Pinnacle Entertainment logo, which we are going to be adding.
Yeah, I mean, we can do it. I don't know if I thought we had done it for the Necessary Evil ones, but we didn't, and I don't think they look. I don't think it's a problem, actually. I think maybe we're all right. Pinnacle,
if you're listening right now,
yeah, you guys tell us. You guys tell us.
And now, without any, Cameron Dayton wrote Scrapped, by the way. There we go. Without any further ado, Ahmed, Mr. Ahmed, wait for it.
Sound Booth Theater and Pinnacle Entertainment present
No, just
Engage.
Just go. Engage.
Sound Booth Theater and Pinnacle Entertainment present A Clear Understanding of Honor by John Wick, narrated by Justin Thomas James, featuring Laurie Catherine Winkle as Resfar and Avella. Captain Moram opened his eyes and saw the ruin that was his command bridge. He felt the cut on his cheek and the drops of blood oozing down to his lip. He looked up to the command deck's shimmering view screen and saw the unknown and alien warship that had fired upon them, ready to fire another volley. It was a perfect ambush. 2 minutes ago, engineering reported a sudden and unexplained drop in power.
Something is sucking the energy right out of our engines.
His engineering officer, Resfar, reported. 1 minute ago, shields failed. Resfar on the comm.
I can't explain it, sir. Energy draining faster than before.
30 seconds ago, the alien warship dropped out of cloak and fired on the Valiant's most vulnerable targets. And now, Moram stood on the bridge of his ship, life support failing, no FTL drive, no impulse drive, emergency power only. They didn't even need to target the weapons. His bridge was dark, lit by emergency light and the small fires his crew was desperately trying to put out. Air filters sucked away the last bit of smoke. 2 of his bridge officers were dead, and he had no idea how many others had joined them. Behind him, only 2 command officers were alive. Avella was wounded, sitting on the floor next to comms, her green fingers holding a wound in her belly, a thick green fluid with silver sheen oozing between them. Moram was familiar enough with Caspedan anatomy to know it wasn't blood. The other was Emirik, his first officer. The Valoran's long, slender gray fingers worked at his station with speed and precision, his wide yellow eyes darting back and forth. Moram did not know what Emirik was doing, nor did he need to know. The Valoran was working, and he knew enough about his first officer that letting him work and not interrupting him was the best choice he could make. At his command chair, Moram saw a blinking light. It was a ship-to-ship comm request. He looked back at Avella. She nodded. He hit the button and the flickering view screen faded from the warship to a face with pale skin, no hair, and 5 red eyes. The smile was full of razors.
I am Shelmar, commander of the Rastian Empire warship, the Haktan.
The face told him.
And you are my prisoner.
Shelmar said that last part with a cold glee. The translator's still working, Moram thought. Thank you, Valiant, for small favors. Surrounded by smoke and death, Moram asked, Captain Shelmar. He chose his words carefully and deliberately. I demand to know what we've done to provoke such an attack. Moram knew the answer to this question. Asking it bought him precious seconds. Shelmar's eyes showed disappointment.
Surely you are not so rude as to fail to introduce yourself,
he said. I am Captain Alistair Pickett Morum, he said. Commander of this ship, the Valiant. We're an exploration ship on a peaceful mission. The Rastian opened its mouth and laughed. Morum saw rows of little razors and 2 tongues.
Do not insult me, Captain,
he said.
We have the capability of simply destroying your ship and its crew, so please, no more lies.
Behind Shelmar, other Rastians moved in the background, the black leather uniforms emphasizing their slender frames. We have weapons, yes, Morum said, but we use them only for self-defense. We've never even encountered you or your people before. Why attack us?
Captain Morum,
the Rastians said.
You know exactly why we've incapacitated your ship and put your crew in mortal danger.
He blinked his 5 eyes.
Don't you?
So they know, Morum thought. The sneak attack was perfect. The Rastians dropped out of cloak and fired exactly where the ship would be hurt worst. Shields down, life support crippled. Without life support, every soul on Morum's ship would be dead in 5 minutes. I'm sorry, Morum said out loud. I'm not sure I received the last transmission.
Stop trying to buy time, Captain,
the Rastian said.
I know as well as you do that our pinpoint target left your communications intact.
He made a sound that may have been a chortle. Morum thought, you clever bastard.
Yes.
A voice in his head agreed.
He's a clever bastard.
It was a female voice, one he knew well.
Keep focused,
it told him. Morum nodded, just a little. I have a message for Imric, he thought. Then he told her. He heard her voice in his head.
Acknowledged.
He saw one of Imric's hands stop and move to another part of his console. As if on cue, the Rastian asked,
What is that one doing?
Keeping the ship together, Morum said. He's balancing our engines. They're in overload. Thanks to you. It was a convincing bluff. Now, to see if Shelmar bought it. Shelmar asked,
What about your engineering?
Morum told him, You've killed nearly everyone down there, including my chief. He gestured at Imric. If he doesn't do what he's doing right now, this ship will explode, and probably take you with us. Shelmar hesitated, thoughts moving behind his 5 eyes. Then he said,
Very well. I will allow that.
Hook, line, and damn sinker, Morum thought. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Imric change his stance, just a little, starting a new task. Step 1 complete. The Rastian captain spoke again.
Do not try to communicate with your ship, Captain,
he warned.
Or we will open fire again. This time we'll rip a hole in the personnel quarters deck and send a few hundred of your beloved crew into the void.
The Rastian laughed then. Morum nearly cursed out loud, but instead he bit the inside of his cheek until it hurt.
If you want to save your ship and its crew,
the Rastian said,
you must surrender.
He paused, his eyes gleaming.
The actuator.
Even Imric paused in his work to turn and look at the captain. Get back to work, he told the Valoran. Imric nodded and turned back to his station.
Give me the actuator,
Shelmar said,
or lose every life on your ship.
Morum turned just a little, wiping his eye. He looked at the weapon station, still intact but unmanned. The corpse of the weapons officer lay bleeding and burning nearby. A cadet, still in training, sat at the station, his head bleeding. He looked at Morum, waiting for orders, but probably unsure how to carry them out. The Rastian's voice boomed over the loudspeaker again.
Now, Captain,
he said.
And I want to see the actuator before you put it on your shuttle. Bring it up to the bridge so I may do so.
I can't really do that without communicating to my crew, Morum said. Can I be allowed to do that? Shelmar laughed.
Yes, Captain. But I warn you, no tricks.
Moram nodded. No tricks. I'll put the package on a shuttle and get it to you as soon as I can give the command.
Very well, Captain,
the Rastian said.
Talk to your crew.
He's going to kill us all.
The voice told him.
That's his plan. As soon as he has the actuator, he's going to destroy the ship.
Moram gave a slight nod. He knew that. Moram walked from his command station across the bridge, stepping over wreckage and broken bodies. Lying beside the comm station was Avella, her silvery green fingers thick with fluid. Moram put his hand on hers, a little of the fluid staining his skin. She looked up at the captain, her wide eyes in tears.
I'm sorry, sir. I can't move.
Her voice was the voice in his head. It's all right, he said. I'll do it. He put his hand on her shoulder gently. It's gonna be all right. She smiled and nodded. He heard Shelmar clapping behind him.
Oh, how touching,
the Rastian said, almost laughing.
Now, do as you're told, Alistair Pickett-Moore.
Shelmar poisoned those last words, laughing as he did. Moram looked back over his shoulder at the view screen, his eyes full of anger.
Captain,
the Rastian said, smiling.
Don't lose your temper.
Moram turned back to the comm controls. He touched a button, then another. This is the captain, he said. The sound of his voice went to all bridges. I want the actuator brought to me on the bridge immediately. Moram out. When he let go of the switch, Moram turned back to the view screen. Satisfied? He asked.
Not until I see it,
Shelmar said.
And do not think this wins you any more time. I am ready to destroy you at any moment.
Moram nodded. Understood. Vaporize me and you get nothing, Moram thought. We both know that. You're just hoping I don't. Shelmar said,
And do not cease communications between us. I like watching you step slowly closer to death.
Moram nodded again. I'm going to make this man beg me, he thought. Avella's voice told him,
Mrick is ready.
Moram almost smiled. He turned back to the view screen. May I be allowed to bring medical crew up to the deck? Moram asked. I have people dying here. Shelmar smiled.
Why should I allow that?
Moram raised his hands and couldn't help but slide a bit of sarcasm in his voice when he said, Because I've been so agreeable thus far. Shelmar nodded.
Very well, Captain. Your life support is failing. You will all die soon anyway. Patching up injuries means nothing to me.
He laughed.
You may have one, and only one. No more.
Moram nodded and returned to the comm station. He looked down at Avella. Just hold on, he thought.
I am,
she said, her eyes shining. He touched the comm control. Medical, I need someone to the command deck, ASAP. Medical reported back.
I'll be there.
It was Danielewski. Moram knew the man himself would be here in a heartbeat. He didn't disappoint. Less than 30 seconds later, the lift opened and Danielewski was there, holding his bag, his blonde hair flopping over his blue eyes. This is taking too much time, Moram thought. We've only got a few minutes of life support left. Moram pointed at Avella. She's first, he said. Danielewski shook his head. I'm the doctor, he said. I'll do my own triage, thank you. The young man looked around the command deck quickly. Then he looked at Moram. But this is one of the rare instances you're right. The doctor knelt down beside her, put gloves on his hands, then pulled a mediscanner from his bag. Moram looked at the old leather bag and smiled. He remembered sitting at the ship's bar, 3 sheets to the wind, while a stone-cold Danielewski told him the story about how it came into his possession. It was a story for another day. Danielewski looked at the readout on the Mediscanner. "It's all right," he said to her. "Nothing important." Then he gave her his best bedside manner smile. "Benefits of being a sentient plant." She smiled and made a little sound, then squirmed because of the pain.
Please,
She said.
don't make me laugh.
Danielewski removed a small bit of Medigel and squeezed it onto the wound. The gel foamed, and she winced.
I hate that stuff.
She said. Danielewski nodded. "I know, I'm sorry. Should have told you it would sting,"
Knew that already.
Avella said. Shelmar's voice boomed over them.
Where is my actuator, Captain?
He shouted. Just then, the lift doors opened and a security guard stepped forward, his hand on the shoulder of an alien child, his skin black and his eyes golden. The boy did not wear a uniform, but a simple tunic. He had bare legs and plain shoes. His eyes saw the Rastian on the screen, and he almost screamed. "It's all right, Jan," Moram told the boy. "It's all right. He can't hurt you." Jan looked at Moram, his eyes wide and ready for tears. "It's the hurting man," he said. Moram nodded. I know. It's all right." From behind him, Moram heard Shelmar's smile and the Rastian's words.
Oh, there you are, my lovely.
Moram took the boy's hand and stood, turning to look at the screen. "You see him now? Your actuator?" Shelmar nodded slowly.
I do, Captain. I do. You've saved your crew's lives for a little while longer.
Both of Shelmar's tongues licked his lips.
So pretty and so delicious.
Jan reached around Moram's leg and squeezed. "Please, don't let him get me," he whimpered. "Please." Danielewski looked at him. "Captain, you can't let this thing—" Without looking away from the screen, Moram said, "I have 400 souls on this vessel, Doctor. What do you expect me to do?" The doctor stood and walked to him, speaking low. "He won't destroy the ship," he whispered. "You know that. He wants the boy." Shelmar shouted,
No whispering! None!
Then he said,
No plotting, no planning, no tricks. I'll have none of it!
Moram shook his head. "Just an officer disagreeing with my decision," he said. At that moment, Umric turned from his station, his long fingers stopping their movement. "Captain," he said, "the shuttle is ready." "No!" the boy screamed. "Please! You promised!" The doctor nearly screamed as well. "You can't, Al! You can't!" "I can and I must," Moram said. He knelt down to the boy. "It'll be all right," he told Jan. "I promise." Then he looked at Imric. "Take Jan to the shuttle, Exo." Danielewski exploded. "You would give the job to Imric, wouldn't you? It fits his bloody math, doesn't it?" Imric talked to them both. "Doctor, we are outgunned, crippled, and unable to defend ourselves. What other choice do we have?" "What other?" Danielewski's face was red. "Whatever happened to protecting every member of this crew?" Imric shook his head. "The boy is not a member of this crew, and thus does not fit into the equation." Jan looked up at Imric and his wide yellow eyes. Are you gonna hurt me?" he asked. "No," Imric said.
What is going on over there, Captain?
Shelmar demanded.
I see lips moving, but I cannot hear what you are saying.
Moram stepped in front of the three of them. "My apologies, just some disobedience from my crew." He looked back at Imric and Jan. "Take him to the shuttle," he said. "Yes, Captain," Imric said. He held out his long hand to the boy. "Come, Jan," he said. "I promise not to harm you, but also to keep you from all harm." Jan looked at Moram. He nodded. "It's all right. You can go with him." Jan smiled. "If you say it's okay, he said. He let go of Moram's hand and took Imric's. The Valoran's fingers coiled around the boy's hand twice. Moram looked at the screen. My exo is taking the actuator to the transport now.
No tricks, Captain,
Shelmar said. Moram raised his hands. No tricks. Danielewski sneered at him. You've saved no one, he said. Once this bastard gets the boy, he'll kill us all. Moram raised his eyebrows and said, Enough, Doctor. Danielewski shook his head and turned to the rest of the wounded. Moram looked at the screen. He's right, you know, he said. As soon as you have Jan, there's no reason at all not to blow us out of the stars. Shelmar looked confused and mumbled alien words. Then he smiled.
A euphemism.
He laughed.
You do not understand us, Captain,
he said.
You've already been defeated. Your life support is fading. You cannot move. Killing you would be...
He paused, his eyes looking for the right word.
It would be insulting to my honor.
That gap scared me. Woo!
All right.
All right.
Awesome performance as Shelmar. Shelmar?
Yes, Shelmar. Shelmar, the Rastian invader.
And that's the dude that we're seeing on the screen here on the cover, right?
Yeah, with the 8 eyes there and the big, cute smile.
Yeah.
Just like very pleased. You know, he's a very happy dude, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Did you look at the picture before you did the voice?
I did not.
Really?
I did not look at the picture before I did the voice.
Okay, because it's like totally fits.
It does. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, I saw the picture. I was like, okay, yeah. It's not exactly what I pictured as Shelmar. I pictured him a little more, I guess, humanoid. But I'm glad it worked out. I think in the writing really just evoked this sense of the character being that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely. So. I'm having a good time so far. It's a really creepy story.
Yeah, the actuator. The Rastian wants to eat this kid.
Yeah, I hope eat him. I hope that's what.
Delicious.
I hope that's all he wants to do. That sounds like it would be.
What is backmasking?
Backmasking, I looked it up. Backmasking is a recording technique in which a sound or message is recorded backward onto a track that is meant to be played forward. The Beatles used it at the end of, I think it's Day in the Life, or they used it in a bunch of different songs. And then when you play it forwards, it says Paul is dead. Miss him. Something like that. Something like that. Yeah, we ran into a little bit of backmasking there, which is an interesting little technique.
That was a choice.
That was a choice. That was a choice. Might have to make a little wee edit. But it kind of worked. Funnily enough, it worked with that character.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I'm going to tell you a secret now.
Do you know
What's going on over there?
Can you look up what the actual line
I don't
was?
know. No, I'd have to pull up the script and figure out where we were and everything. But yeah. So who knows what Imric said?
Yeah,
We're just playing with the sense of mystery.
So if you guys can email us what that line was, you get a secret decoder ring. Yeah.
Jeff is going to provide the secret decoder ring.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that can be rectified.
Is that a decoder ring?
What is that?
Is that a...
Oh.
That's cute. Did Mars make that?
Oh.
Oh.
So this is a pretty intense story. I'm feeling everyone's stress, and that's what that's one thing I really like about what you've done with this one. It's the pacing is quick.
Yeah.
And I
it's
can feel
quick.
everyone panicking, and I think again the cover's very appropriate.
You know, panic, I have to say, is one of my favorite emotions to play while acting. Fear, panic, like intense, just like going insane, crazy. I love that because it's just like I feel all of it. And it's like I just open up. I just like
Yeah.
Pandora was boxed into the characters. Yeah, it feels good. That's catharsis right there.
Hell yeah. Well, anything else? Anybody else noted?
I will say that I also, no, I won't say that.
Okay.
I will say that I'm ready to jump back into it.
Me too.
Later, Bill.
See you later, Bill.
'Tis better for my story if I simply let you die, helpless in the cold emptiness of space.
A weak signal registered on his command terminal. Moram stepped forward and looked at it. Then he looked up. "The actuator is on its way to you now," he said. Another Rastian stepped forward and spoke something close to what Moram assumed were the Rastians' versions of ears. Shelmar nodded and smiled.
Our sensors do indeed detect a small ship heading toward our vessel.
Moram nodded. "Acknowledged," he said. He touched another control on his console. "Our shuttle should reach your ship any moment now." A moment later, Imric emerged from the tube doors. "The shuttle is away, Captain," he said, and resumed his post. Moram looked away from the view screen and at the Valoran. "With its cargo?" Imric nodded. "As you instructed, sir." Then he walked back to his station and sat down, looking at the view screen. Moram looked back at Shelmar as well. "In a few moments, it should be within range," he said.
And then we will watch you and your crew slowly die,
Shelmar said, his smile widening, showing his teeth. "Yes," Moram said, sitting back in his chair. "I'm sure that's something you would enjoy." Then he turned to Imric. "Shuttle range to alien ships, Mr. Imric?" The Valoran said, "Coming into range now, Captain." On the view screen, behind Shelmar, a Rastian looked up from his own command console.
Sir,
he shouted.
"There are no life forms on the—"
"Now, Mr. Imric," Moram said. One of Imric's digits extended and touched a button. At the same moment, the view screen on the Valiant went dark. Danielewski's eyes went wide. "What the hell just happened?" "An EMP," Moram said. "Just within range of the Haktan and out of range of us." Moram looked at Imric. Perfect timing. "Of course," Imric said. Moram looked back at the doctor. "Should have knocked out their circuits. They'll need time to restart everything," Imric said. "They still may have emergency cells." Moram looked at Avella. Her eyes were closed, darting behind her lids.
They don't.
She said.
It's complete panic. Shelmar doesn't know what happened.
Moram couldn't help but smile, but he still had no time. He pushed the comm button on his console. "Engineering?" he shouted. Resfar answered.
Captain!
"How's it looking down there?"
Bad, Captain.
When she spoke, her Aliskew accent swallowed her vowels.
We've been replacing circuits like mad. We've got impulse movement, but no FTL. Shields are still down, but deflectors are up. We can handle a few physical attacks, but we're defenseless against energy.
She paused.
But they didn't touch the weapons system, stupid bastards. If you want weapons, you've got them.
Moram looked at the weapons station. Danielewski was there, scanning the cadet's skull. The kid was just out of training, watching Lieutenant Gilbert when he was killed. His head had exploded onto the boy's shirt. "Doc," Moram asked. Danielewski clicked off the Medi-scanner and nodded at him. Cadet Masayoshi, Moram shouted. The cadet looked up. Aye, Captain. Fire at will, Moram said. Masayoshi turned back to his console, touched the controls, and Moram felt the familiar vibrations of the weapons systems pushing torpedoes through the interior of the ship. Avella, he said, not turning around.
Captain.
Get me a tactical on the screen.
Tactical. Aye,
she said. A moment later, he saw what he needed to see. The alien ship was listing, unable to maintain its position. He saw the torpedoes firing from the Valiant toward the Rastian ship. Mr. Imric, I want information on the Rastian ship's condition no more than 10 seconds after those torpedoes hit, he said. Waiting for impact, Captain. Helm! Moram shouted. But then he realized no one was there. The fried remains of Lieutenant Brigham lay beside the seat. He touched the comm on his command console. I need a helmsman up here, he shouted. Then he ran to the station and sat in the chair. Moram grabbed the stick and pulled, sending the Valiant into full reverse. As the ship began to move, he watched the slow progress of the torpedoes. Their systems are still down, sir, Imric said. Apparently they were unprepared for such an attack. Of course they were, Moram said. It wasn't honorable. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw Avella jolt, her eyes going wide, her hands coming up to her mouth. She made a pained sound and shut her eyes tight. Avella? He asked. She opened her eyes and looked at him. Her words were broken and hesitant.
Shelmar just killed one of his own crew,
she said.
I'm sorry, I couldn't keep contact. I've lost him.
Moram looked back at the view screen. Beside him, Masayoshi launched another spread of torpedoes. Anticipating orders is a great way to get on my good side, Mr. Masayoshi. Moram called back to Imric. Distance between us and the enemy ships? Imric answered. Still within range of their weapons. Then, I detect a power surge from what I presume is their engineering department. A power surge? Moram asked. Is he detonating his own ship? Negative, Imric said. It seems he's turned everything on at once rather than wait for safety protocols, assuming their tech works remotely like ours. Moram said, Put it on the screen. Avella pushed a button and the tactical display turned to a visual display. The Haktan had come to life just as the torpedo struck it. Moram saw pieces of the ship blow apart. Masayoshi's targeting was perfect. Damage to maneuvering, Imric said, but the Haktan's weapons are still online. Then he said, Main beam weapon charging! Moram shoved the stick down, hoping to get his ship out of the way. The beam fired, moving fast across the distance. It hit the Valiant, and Moram felt the ship shudder around him. Damage report! He shouted. Avella closed her eyes.
Checking with deck officers now.
Imric, she's got her shields and her weapons, Moram said. Suggestions are welcome. She does not have all her systems, Imric said. Her engine coils are showing overheating. She may have weapons, but she cannot turn, and it is entirely possible she cannot move. Moram nodded. Understood, he said. He continued the Valiant's plunge downward. On his command console, he heard Resfar from engineering.
Captain, don't let that happen again. I nearly blew the couplings down here. Another hit like that and we'll be a star ourselves.
Get me FTL, he shouted at the comm.
A week, 3 days at best.
Resfar said. Options then, give me options.
Working on them,
Resfar said. The Haktan is preparing to fire again, Imric said. Move, damn it! Moram shouted at the controls. Move! He saw the Haktan fire and felt the ship shudder, but not from impact. Apparently, we have exited the Haktan's firing radius, Imric said. Sir, Masayoshi said, if we're under her and she can't fire back, and her engines are overheating, Imric added. Moram nodded. Target her engines, Mr. Masayoshi, he said. Behind him, Avella said,
Sir, damage reports in. I'll forward them to your console.
She paused.
Casualties are less than expected, sir,
she said. Good, Moram said, because I still need a pilot up here. The lift doors opened and everyone looked. It was Jan, his wide gold eyes flashing against his black skin. Umric said, I told you to stay in my quarters. He put his hands together. The ship was shaking, he said. People were screaming. Moram nodded. It's all right, Jan, he said. Umric said, Come here, sit next to me. Moram looked at the Valoran with a quizzical eye. Umric said, I am the obvious choice. Unlike a human, I will not be distracted by a human child. Moram smiled, and for a moment he thought he saw Umric smile too. Next to him, Masayoshi said, Torpedoes away, sir. Tactical, Moram said. Avella changed the screen. He looked at the distance between the Valiant and the Rastian ships. Then he said, Mr. Umric, I want the same report. When those torpedoes hit, same orders. Understood, Umric said. Analysis should be faster now. Scans are giving me a better understanding of the Rastian ship's structure. Behind him, Moram heard Jan say, Are you gonna hurt them? Moram turned and looked at the boy. They would have done worse to you. We're going to stop them from hurting us, he said. Jan nodded. Okay, I guess. Danielewski said, Looks like you've got the boy's permission to continue firing, Masayoshi. The cadet looked at Moram. Sir? He asked. Moram nodded. The previous order goes unchanged. Fire at will, he said. Masayoshi nodded and touched his console. Then he looked confused. He touched it again. Sir, he said. Weapons not responding. Moram touched the comm. Engineering?
I know!
Resvar said.
Torpedo firing is offline.
Get it back! Moram shouted.
If I do, we'll be flying through space without a ship.
She said.
Give me 10 minutes.
Damn it! Moram cursed. He looked up at the view screen. The last torpedoes Masayoshi fired hit the Haktan and the ship shuddered, almost flipping over while bits of it blew off. Obviously damage to their stabilizers, Masayoshi said. Analyzing for further data. Just then, Moram's comm light turned green on his console. A signal from Shelmar. He pushed the button. Is this the captain of the Haktan? He asked. He heard Shelmar's voice, breathing heavy, sounds of fires behind it.
You know it is, you treacherous creature!
Moram said, I think you and I have very different definitions of what is and is not honorable in combat.
I will rip your throat out and shove you!
Shelmar. Is that any way for a captain to be speaking to another captain, especially one who can destroy your ship at will? Moram heard the sound of a small explosion on the line. Then he heard Shelmar curse.
You cowardly fool! It was a mistake to underestimate your underhanded tactics.
I'll accept that as a surrender, Shelmar, Moram said.
I treated you with honor and respect,
Shelmar said.
But the code of Ithe is clear. An enemy without honor deserves no honor. And so it will be my pleasure to crush your throat with my teeth!
The communication ended. Moram looked at Imric. Status of the Haktan? Still unable to bring maneuvering fully online, Captain. Moram nodded. Engineering! Resvar answered on the comm.
Sir?
What have we got down there?
The FTL is fried, sir. No way to get it back online without serious repairs. Life support is back online. I can get main power back in a few hours. Weapons are tricky.
Define tricky, Lieutenant. He heard Resvar take a sigh.
That last hit we took knocked weapons offline. We tried rebooting, but we need to get a man in there to do the work. Shielding is damaged, and that means protective suits and special tools.
Shields? He asked.
It's that or weapons.
She said.
Your choice.
Why is it even a choice? Moram asked.
I've got casualties down here. Radiation sickness and burns, damaged shielding, malfunctioning ventilators, everyone's in masks. You want to come down here and help push while I run the gas? I'd be more than happy for the help.
Moram couldn't help but laugh. The last time she was in his office, he saw how she eyed all the models of antique automobiles. She even borrowed a book. Get our weapons back online, he said. Do it in 10 minutes and I'll let you drive my convertible next time we port on Alvarez 7.
Already on it, sir.
she said. Command out. He shut off the comm. Then he looked at the view screen. Analysis, Mr. Imric. The Valoran stepped away from his station. They can't move, and we can't hurt them, he said. Our torpedoes don't have enough power to break their shields. With main power online to power the lasers and batter them first, yes, but not in our current situation. Moram shook his head. We can't just wait here and hope we get our repairs done before they do. Agreed, Imric said. I do not have enough data on the Rastian ship, so I could not give you a proper estimate. And once we get their shields down, they can always cloak again, Moram said. I believe Lieutenant Avella is the solution to that problem, sir, Imric said. Avella turned in her chair.
Their minds are awful. But yes, I could. If you need me to.
Moram thought for a moment. He keeps talking about honor. Honor, honor, honor. He paused. But so far everything he's done has been, well, not what we would consider honorable. He looked at Avella. What can you tell me about that? Avella squirmed in her seat a little.
Sir,
she said.
It's difficult to process. When he uses the word honor, I think it means something closer to strength.
Imric nodded. That seems right, he said. The translator is not perfect. Sometimes we lose context between languages. Danielewski said, If you ask me, the guy's a lunatic. Winning seems to be his only motivation. That and watching his enemies die. Moram listened to them all, trying to put it together. Strength, honor, watching your enemies die. He looked at Avella. You said he killed one of his own crewmen. Why? She blinked and sighed.
It was because he was weak.
Weak? Danielewski asked.
He wasn't working hard enough for Shelmar. He was failing the captain.
She paused.
And that meant he was failing the ship.
Lieutenant, Imric asked Avella, would he detonate the ship if he felt he had failed it? She took another sigh.
No, he'd commit suicide and let someone else take command.
She paused and looked at Moram.
Sir, I'm not sure of any of this. Their minds are so difficult. I've never read anything like them before.
Moram nodded. I understand. Your intuition has helped us. He looked at Imric and Danielewski. Suggestions? From the weapons station. Sir? They turned to look at Masayoshi. I think I have something you should see. All of them watched it on the big screen. It was the tactical display of the fight, just moments before the Valiant's torpedoes hit the Haktan's shields. When our torpedoes hit the Haktan, they bypassed the shields, just went straight through them. Imric nodded. Yes, he said. His voice sounded like he understood what Masayoshi said. Moram looked at him. Care to share, Exo? Imric shook his head. I believe Cadet Masayoshi deserves this one, he said. Masayoshi smiled. Thank you, Mr. Imric. He pointed back at the view screen. Their shields don't work like ours. Ours are dynamic resistance, like actual armor. Theirs are different. How so? Moram asked. We've never encountered their race before. Maybe they've never encountered another race at all. Their shields seem designed to only deal with weapons from their own race. We fired at them, Moram said. And their shields did nothing? Yes, sir. That sounds like a very flawed defense system, Moram said. He looked at Imric. What do you think? It's a strong hypothesis, he said, strengthened by direct evidence. Conclusion? Moram asked. Imric nodded. Their shields are designed for warfare with each other and not other races. He paused. From this, I deduce the Rastians are not very experienced with alien races. He nodded. In fact, it shows a kind of hubris. All the other races they've encountered have not had weapons powerful enough to exploit this weakness. Otherwise, they would have noticed and changed it. If this is true, we launch torpedoes and their shields would do nothing, Moram said. Hypothetically, yes, Imric said.
Killing everyone aboard the other ship.
Avella said from the comm station. Moram looked at her. Then he looked at Imric. The Valorant said, "The Haven vow will not permit me to take part in such an action. In fact, I may be put into a position of having to stop you." Moram smiled. "Mutiny, Mr. Imric." Imric did not smile. "You of all people know that would not be my motivation." Moram's smile broadened. He looked at Avella. "Don't worry, Lieutenant. We won't be committing mass murder today,"
Thank you, sir.
she said. She smiled. "Open channels," Moram said. She turned to her station.
Channel open, sir.
"This is the captain of the Valiant speaking to the captain of the defeated Haktan. Are you receiving me?" The screen fizzled and Moram saw Shelmar's face.
You sniveling coward! How dare you!
"Shut up," Moram said. "We have analyzed your shields and know we can destroy your ship with only a few of our torpedoes. Surrender is your only option now." Shelmar's mouth curled tight.
You lie!
Moram looked at Masayoshi. "Are torpedoes ready, cadet?" Masayoshi looked confused, then understood. "Ready to fire on your order, Captain." "On my mark, then," Moram said. "Fire in 5, 4, 3...
Wait!
Right on the countdown.
Right on the
5, 4, 3.
Oh, wait, we have some stuff to say.
Cut. What do we have to say? What do we have to say? And I cough all over the microphone. Well,
Well, this has been a really fun story. I'm actually very eager to get back to listening to it. But, man, I gotta say, you've done a really great job at narrating
Thank you.
this one. I really love it. I'm
Thanks a
looking
lot.
forward to hearing more of the Last Parsec. So Harlan's is next.
Yep.
And then
Yeah,
after
let
that-
me pull up the list here. Let's see. What do we got? So we have we have a clear understanding of honor, which is narrated by myself. We've got Scrapped, which is being narrated by Harlan Guthrie, written by Cameron Dayton. And then we have Fabricated Dreams, which is narrated by that one I believe is Gary. Francis Furlong.
Gotcha.
And let me see if I can find the manuscript here, and I can read out the authors as well. Here we go.
All right. I have the manuscript right here.
Oh, perfect. There it is. Timothy Bryan Brown.
Right.
Wrote Fabricated Dreams. Then
Next
we
one after
have
that is me. How the
That's
Life Goes
you!
On. Yeah.
How the Life Goes On.
Me and Annie did that one.
Yes, that's right. I'm excited to hear that because you recorded it using a character that is of Sound Booth Theater fame, at least a voice.
Yes. Anyone who loves Quantum Hughes, he stars in this one.
Yep. So definitely check that out. Then, of course, we have... Oh, and that's written by Michael Kahn.
Michael Kahn.
After that, we're going to have... Kahn! The Searchers by Shane Lacey Hensley. And the cool thing about The Searchers and Fabricated Dreams, which I'm really excited about, is that these are the only two stories that features the same crew.
Oh.
All the other stories have different crews with different characters. These two stories are connected by their crew and their captain. And the one is Fabricated Dreams is narrated by Gary and has Annie working as the counterpart, doing the female voices and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And The Searchers is narrated by Annie, but and featuring Gary as the supporting voices.
That's
and
cool.
there is a particular reason why we're doing it that way. So you'll have to listen to find out exactly why we did that. But it's a cool little. It's not really a twist, but
Nipple twist.
it's something that you're like, oh yeah, I guess that would be a thing in this sci-fi world.
So are they both first person or are they both third person?
They're both third person.
Okay.
They're both third person. But they do, third person limited, featuring, focusing on the captain.
Are any of them bird person?
Neither of them are bird person.
Okay.
Nobody's bird person. There aren't any bird people, Jeff. This is a conspiracy theory. They don't exist. All right? Stop bringing it up.
Okay.
Bird people.
Sure.
Speaking of which, actually, I haven't seen Sweet Tooth yet, but it looks good. I want to watch it.
It doesn't.
I do want to watch it.
No.
I think it looks cool.
It looks terrible. Dude, I watched I had to put it down after 5 minutes. The effects.
Oh, really?
The effects offended my senses so badly.
Oh, really?
But yeah.
Well, see, it reminds me of I listened to before I get into what I listened to, then finally we have Echoes. The final story is going to be Echoes by Christine Thompson, narrated by Laurie Catherine Winkle, and featuring Harlan Guthrie on voices for that.
Nice.
So very excited for all of those to be rolling out. And yes, and what I was going to say was one of the very first audiobooks that I ever listened to and fell in love with was a James Patterson book called When the Wind Blows. And it is about bird people, or it's about angels, basically, like this laboratory that has a bunch of kids, kind of like the 11, Stranger Things type thing, where it's this lab and all the kids are living there and they all have wings. They're all like angel children that the government has been studying. And they escape at one point, and they've got their own lives that they try to figure out. But really great story. So when I see Sweet Tooth, I think of that, and there's a special in my heart for it.
I think of that original PlayStation game as with the ice cream truck and
Twisted Metal.
No, yeah, Twisted Metal, yeah, that one.
That's what you think of.
Yeah, Sweet Tooth, yeah. Because that's the ice cream truck's name.
Oh, I see. Gotcha.
Yeah. Right. So, okay, guys. So we're gonna finish this off. What do we have? Like 5-10 minutes left?
No, we got more.
Oh, more than that.
There's I think there's still 25 minutes or so, Ahmed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna finish this off, but just want to let you guys know, remind you, if you weren't here earlier when I told you this, I will be narrating some Dungeon Crawler Carl for tonight, streaming live. So watch our Facebook group for that, and go download this book from our app.
Yes.
If you want to
go get it.
If you want to listen to
$0.
$0. $0 $0. Indeed.
That's it. That's the ticket. All right.
All right.
Take it away, Mr. Ahmed.
Let's do this.
Shelmar shouted. The others on the bridge looked at him, their body language very different. The Rastian looked at the crew behind him, then at the view screen.
It is true.
He said.
Even your weapons are full of shame and cowardice.
He took a breath.
I am defeated,
he said. Moram heard Avella gasp behind him.
No!
She said. Shelmar took a dagger from his side into his hand.
Captain, you have to stop him!
Avella shouted. Moram raised his hand. Shelmar, wait!
I am defeated,
he said.
but the ship will be always victorious!
He plunged the dagger into his throat, black blood spraying over his fingers. Avella turned from the screen, covering her hands. Danielewski cursed something under his breath. Shelmar fell from the screen. Another Rastian stepped up. A female, Moram thought.
Congratulations, Captain,
she said. She ducked down and lifted Shelmar's blackened dagger.
You have defeated Shelmar.
She wiped the blood from the dagger and slipped it into an empty sheath on her leather uniform.
I am Haveka, the captain of the Haktan, and I will not be as weak as Shelmar was.
She motioned below the screen at the floor.
Get this filth off my bridge,
she ordered. The other officers obeyed her command. She turned to another Rastian.
Translator off,
she shouted. Moram saw the Rastian hit a button on his command console and heard a digital click. Then she barked orders in a language Moram had never heard before. She turned back to the view screen and smiled. It went blank. "Sir," Imric said, "their shields have dropped." Moram stood confused for a moment. "What? Tactical?" The screen lit up, and he saw the Valiant and the Haktan. Then he saw only the Valiant. Imric turned from his screen to look at him. "They've engaged their cloaking device," he said. Moram turned to Masayoshi. "Fire! Last known coordinates!" "There's nothing to lock onto, sir. We'd be firing blind at thousands of kilometers of space." Moram looked back at the view screen. The Valiant, the only thing on the tactical readout. "We're sitting ducks," he said. The tube doors opened, and a tall, slender man stepped through. "Lieutenant Weber, reporting for duty, sir," he said. Moram was looking at the view screen, thinking of his next move. He turned and looked at Weber. "Excuse me?" he said. "Lieutenant Weber," the tall man said. "You called for a helmsman?" Moram nodded. "Right," he said. "Take your post." Weber moved to the chair. "I called for you ages ago, Weber. You are on the ship's time. The ship isn't on your time." Weber nodded. "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. It's, the deck's below. It's a mess, sir." "Never mind that," Moram said. He looked at the screen again. "Options, Mr. Imric," he said. Like their shields, their cloaking device is unlike anything we've encountered before. Improvising a scanning system is out of the question. "All right," Moram said. "What can we do?" He looked at Avella. Avella said,
I can scan for their minds, but that will not give us the coordinates Cadet Masayoshi needs to get a torpedo lock.
Moram thought about that. "Captain," Imric said, "our only option is retreat. We cannot fight an enemy we cannot see." Moram thought about that too. He looked at Danielewski. The doctor nodded. "As much as I hate to admit it, Mr. Imric is right." "Thank you, Doctor," Imric said. Danielewski said, "Don't get used to it." Then he gave the Valoran a quick wink. "All right," Moram said. "We have a mission to get Jan to Arcturus 7. Set a course, best possible speed." "Aye, sir," Weber said. He looked over his console. "Best possible speed at this time is impulse power, Captain," he said. Weber turned to look at Moram. "That's 2 weeks, sir." "Then 2 weeks it is," Moram said. "She's still out there," Danielewski said, stepping up. "And we have no shields. All she would have to do is follow us until—" "Captain," Imric said, "I have a suggestion." Moram turned to look at the Valoran. "Go ahead." "Mr. Masayoshi stumbled across a weakness in their shields due to our difference in technology. Perhaps we can exploit other weaknesses as well." Moram looked at the Valoran, his smile spreading slowly across his face. "Excellent suggestion, Mr. Imric." "Thank you, sir." Moram thought for a moment, then said, "Mr. Imric, I want scans on everything, on every frequency." Imric walked to his station and began working. "Cadet Masayoshi," Moram said. The cadet nodded. "Aye, sir." "Keep those sharp eyes open. I want to know about any anomaly you find. Anything. No matter how trivial. You understand?" He nodded. "Aye, sir." Moram looked at the helm station. "Lieutenant?" Weber turned. "Aye." "I'm going to be giving irregular commands. Pay attention. No errors." He smiled at the lieutenant. "You and I will be indulging in pitch and yaw." Weber smiled. "Aye, sir," he said. Moram looked at the view screen. "We've got an invisible enemy, people," he said. "And I want to see her." He looked at Avella. "Open all frequencies,"
Aye, Captain.
she said, and did so. Then she said,
Frequencies open.
Moram paused for a moment, calculating his words. Then he spoke. On the Haktan, Haveka sat in her new command console looking at the screen. She saw the Valiant slowly retreating from her view.
Engineering!
She shouted. Over speaker, the engineer's voice spoke.
Aye, Captain. The Valiant is escaping. We need propulsion, now!
The speaker crackled.
Covert propulsion units are overcharged. If we use them, we may detonate the ship. It's your job to make sure that doesn't happen, engineer!
She said, her lips curling.
Propulsion.
A deck officer spoke up then. He was smaller than she was, and he bowed his head when he spoke.
I do not correct the Kuva, but inform her that propulsion may compromise our cloaking device.
Haveka thought about that for a moment. Then she opened the comm to engineering again.
List of viable systems,
she said. Engineering reported.
Kuva, life support and cloaking device at optimal performance. Engines still at overload. Power to any other systems endangers the engine's integrity fields. Why are the engines still in overload?
The officer beside her said.
Kuva Shelmar's order to cold start the engines.
She slapped the officer with the back of her hand.
Never speak that name again on this ship!
She shouted. Then she sat back in her chair, silent.
How long can we maintain without life support?
She asked. Engineering did not answer.
How long?
She shouted at the comm. Engineering replied.
10 minutes, madam. That's all I need,
she said, her smile returning to her face. Another deck officer turned.
My duty demands I inform the Kuva that a signal comes from the Valiant. What kind of signal?
Haveka asked, her voice a mixture of annoyance and curiosity. The officer's voice almost cracked as he said,
As the Kuva commands, it is a communication to us, madam.
She smiled when she heard the sound of his voice. Another officer she did not need to worry about.
Put it on speaker,
she said. The speaker crackled, and the Kuva of the Haktan heard Moram's voice. Respond. This is Captain Moram of the Valiant. Captain of the Haktan, will you respond? The comms officer spoke up.
He's only trying to delay the inevitable, Captain. Only trying to disgrace your honor and steal your victory.
He laughed.
As the Kuva wishes, destroy him!
Haveka thought for a moment. Then she said,
Open the frequency!
The comms officer said,
As the Kuva commands.
Haveka smiled to herself.
This is Captain Haveka of the Haktan. What is it you seek, Moram?
She watched the Valiant on her console. Its movement was erratic, like a wounded animal. She wondered if it was intentional. Captain Haveka, Moram's voice said. Since we're both stuck here until repairs are made, I was wondering if you and I could have a conversation.
A conversation?
Haveka asked.
What kind of conversation?
Moram said. This is the first time our species have ever met, ours and yours, and I did not want to waste the opportunity. She laughed.
Captain, what makes you think I cannot destroy you now?
Because you haven't, Moram said. Which leads me to two conclusions. Either you cannot destroy my ship, or you will not. I'm hoping the latter is true, but I think the first one is more likely. She watched the Valiant make a sudden dip. She ordered comms to mute the conversation, then motioned to scanning.
What's wrong with their ship? Tell me now!
The scanning officer looked at her console.
As the Kuva commands, I detect no significant damage to their impulse engines,
she said.
Their navigation appears operational as well.
Haveka cursed quietly. The energy web they cast at the Valiant only had a short duration anyway. It was only a matter of time before their engines regained power. She nodded to comms, and he reopened the channel.
Captain Moram, I assure you, I can destroy your ship at will.
I don't think so, Moram said. Unless there's something about honor I don't understand. Haveka nodded.
The previous captain of this ship believed you knew nothing about honor. I, on the other hand, believe you understand it all too well.
The speakers crackled. Explain it to me then, Moram said. She shifted in her chair as she watched the Valiant make another abrupt turn, this time to starboard.
Honor means winning at all costs,
she said.
And the greater the victory, the greater the glory.
Moram asked, Watching your opponent die. I suppose that is the greatest victory? She nodded.
You see, Captain, you understand honor perfectly well. What greater victory could a warrior have than defeating an opponent so completely you do not even have to raise a hand for them to reach death?
A pause on the other end.
I see,
Moram said.
And so the greatest victory of all is putting your opponent in a position where they would rather end his own life than suffer further?
Haveka laughed out loud.
Ha ha ha! How well you understand our people, Captain. I am most impressed.
Moram said,
I've had much experience with alien cultures. Learning new cultures is a skill I picked up along the way.
Com signaled Haveka. She gave the signal to mute the Valiant's captain.
Yes,
she asked.
As the Kuva commands,
the comms officer said.
Engineering reports the engines are now capable of firing, but we would need to drop cloak to do so.
Haveka nodded.
Excellent.
She looked at the weapons officer.
Tell me when we are ready to fire,
she said. The weapons officer nodded.
As the Kuva commands.
I have another question, if you don't mind,
Moram said over the channel. Haveka gave the command to unmute him.
Go ahead, Captain,
she said.
It seems the duty of a captain on a Rastian ship is to bring glory to the ship and its crew.
She shook her finger, even though he could not see her.
Oh, Captain, a mistake,
she said.
But not your first on this day. And not your last.
Moram said.
Please correct me.
She watched the Valiant turn again, this time to port. She said,
The crew gain glory because of the ship. No Rastian has glory on his own, only the ship.
Moram said,
I understand. A subtle difference. I see why I made that mistake.
She laughed again, and suddenly Haveka realized that she was growing to admire this man. He was clever and strong. His ship had great honor, even if he did not know it.
Captain Moram, I regret to inform you that I am beginning to like you,
she said. She heard a slight lilt in Moram's voice when he said,
Really? Why should you regret that?
Because there is nothing more honorable than dispatching a beloved enemy,
she said. Moram's voice became even more mirthful.
Well, perhaps we can call this whole thing off and become, even closer enemies?
She laughed openly then.
Ha ha! Yes, Captain Moram,
she said.
I believe you and I would have created a rivalry worthy of a song.
She watched the Valiant move closer, and the weapons officer gave her a nod.
But now,
she said,
our little encounter must end.
She raised a hand to the weapons officer.
Now you die, Captain Moram.
She was about to give the signal to the weapons officer, but then she stopped, paused. The Valiant suddenly turned and moved out of her weapon arc. Moram said over the comm.
It seems I'm still alive.
She stared at the screen. Yes, the ship was moving directly into the firing solution, but then it changed.
He could not have known,
she thought.
He is only moving about to keep himself safe from our weapons.
But then another thought came to her.
If he knew we could not fire upon him, why would he move?
Just as the echo of that thought hit her, Haveka's eyes opened wide.
Because he knows exactly where we are.
Still there, Captain Haveka?
Moram asked.
There was a long silence. I hope your engines haven't overloaded.
His movements. He was not trying to avoid a weapons strike. He was...
I hope you've figured it out by now,
Moram said.
Otherwise, I'd be greatly disappointed in my, beloved enemy.
Haveka turned to look at the deck crew. They were all looking at her, waiting for orders.
If you haven't,
Moram said,
let me explain it. And don't kill yourself yet, because I want you to know exactly how I won.
Her hand went to the dagger at her side.
We triangulated your signal, something I learned in Wilderness Scouts. And once we did that, we knew exactly where you were.
Her fingers gripped the pommel. The other officers stared at her. Moram said,
Now, don't move, because we have torpedoes locked on your position. We fed the signal through to our weapons console, and Mr. Masayoshi is very eager to pull the trigger, so to speak.
One of the deck officers stepped forward.
You have sunk the ship, you fool!
He said.
I have...
Moram kept talking.
Now, don't think you can escape. I could kill every last one of you if I wanted. We figured out your shields can't stop our torpedoes, so one or two should do the trick.
She heard Moram's voice on the edge of laughter when he said,
And I've got 10 torpedoes locked on you right now. Ready to fire.
Heveka swallowed. It made an audible click in her throat.
Now, I want to send a message to the other officers on the command deck there. If you're listening, pay attention.
She saw the other officers pause, their eyes looking up, as if Moram was speaking to them from above the ship.
If Captain Heveka is dead when my security teams come over there to secure your deck, I'll make sure each and every one of you die of old age in a prison camp on an alien world where nobody knows your names.
Heveka saw each deck officer cringe. Moram said,
I hope that's clearly understood.
Then,
Captain Heveka, did my threat demonstrate a clear understanding of honor?
Heveka shook her head.
No, Captain Moram. You do not understand us at all.
She reached forward and pushed a button. Then, everything went white. On the Valiant, Moram heard Heveka's words. Then he heard Avella scream. Moram turned and saw her stand suddenly, then collapse to the floor, her body shivering. Danielewski rushed over to her, holding her shoulders. Moram turned back to the screen.
Heveka!
He shouted.
No!
On the view screen, the Haktan detonated in a brilliant flash of silent silver. Moram felt his breath stop. His hands clenched. His jaw tightened. The Haktan and its crew were gone. His officers turned to look at him. Moram sank down into his chair. The bridge was as silent as the space outside. After a few moments, Moram rose and walked to Avella, her eyes full of tears.
They're dead.
Avella whispered to him. Even from there, he could hear her lips trembling.
I felt all that fear, trying to hide it from the others. It was...
An escape shuttle, maybe? He asked. She shook her head.
I can't...
Danielewski put his hand on her head, rested it against his chest. She's finished, Al. Let her be. All of those minds suddenly dying must have been like looking at an exploding sun. Moram nodded. I'm sorry, he told her. She just cried into Danielewski's chest. Mrik stepped forward. Sir, he said. There was no alternative. They would not have surrendered. Moram nodded. I know, Imrik. He took a deep breath. That doesn't make it easier. And your command is what causes hundreds of lives to come to an end. Imrik shook his head. It was not your command, he said. It was hers. Moram nodded. He thought about that for a moment. Then he said, Lieutenant Weber, get us to our destination. Weber said, Yes, sir. Moram looked at Danielewski and Avella. She was unconscious. The doctor said, I still have a lot to learn about Caspedin biology and psychology, he said. But I suspect the sudden death of a few hundred souls is something I should take seriously. He frowned. I should get her to sickbay. Let me help, Moram said. Together they lifted Avella's unconscious body and took her to the elevator tube. Moram looked at Imrik. You have the con, he said. Get us space-worthy again. With the utmost efficiency, Captain, Imrik said. I have no doubt, Mr. Imrik. The elevator doors opened, then closed behind them. For a moment, the two of them said nothing. Then Danielewski said, Imrik was right, by the way. There really was no choice. It was us or them. Us or them, Moram said. A warrior culture obsessed with victory or death. We used to be like that. We got over it, Danielewski said. With any luck, we can help them to get over it too. A lot of people are going to die in the process, Moram said. The elevator stopped, and the doors opened at the medbay. Moram saw it was full of casualties. An orderly stepped up to the elevator. Sir? He asked, offering to help. I've got it from here, Danielewski said. Moram looked at Avella. Her eyes were closed, her lips slightly parted. Her green skin was... Her sap does that, Danielewski said. Moram blinked. What? He asked. Danielewski pointed at the captain's fingers. Moram looked down and saw green stains on his skin, picked up from her wound. Danielewski showed Moram his plastic gloves. That's why I wear these. Her blood? He asked. Sap, Danielewski said. It's not blood, and it does something to human biology that I haven't quite figured out yet. Moram nodded. Noted, he said, putting his hands behind him. It'll wear off in a couple of days, Danielewski told him. In the meantime, wash up. He winked. With a cold shower. The elevator doors closed. Moram stood silent for a moment. Then he said, Private room. The elevator started moving. You just listened to A Clear Understanding of Honor from the Last Parsec collection of Wendigo Tales. Written by John Wick, narrated by Justin Thomas James, featuring Laurie Catherine Winkle as Resfar and Avella. Proofing by William Lexon. Editing and mastering by Mike Smith. Music by Justin Thomas James. Text copyright 2020 by Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Production copyright 2021 by Sound Booth Theater. A Sound Booth Theater production. The Last Parsec is a Savage Worlds RPG from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. To find out more, visit Pinnacle's website, www.peginc.com. That's PEGINC.com. There, you'll find the Last Parsec RPG and other games that span across the universe, all using the Savage Worlds game system. If you enjoyed this production from Sound Booth Theater, you can also find their work on audible.com and find even more from Pinnacle Entertainment's Savage Worlds at www.soundbooththeater.com. To hang with them while they narrate live, visit the Sound Booth Theater Live Discord server.
Sit.
There we go.
Excellent
I
story.
like that music.
Yeah, dude.
So thank you, Aman. So the one thing that I want to point out that's really exciting about all of these Wendigo tales is that these are based on role-playing games. You can get the Savage Worlds Last Parsec supplement and learn about, this universe, and learn about these different races and create characters in this setting. And hopefully these stories, you read them, you listen to the audio version, inspire your own campaigns when you are running the games. And I bring this up because the ending of this story with Avella and her sap, that's a mystery. I think that's really left open to interpretation at this point, but I wouldn't be surprised if you were to look into the actual role-playing game itself and the Caspedan alien race. If there was something about this that is a bit of a nod to the actual role-playing, and John Wick didn't want to give everything away, I'm wondering if this is some incentive to be like, okay, you want to find out what that sap does, what that's going to do to Captain Moram? Maybe you should check out the RPG.
Yeah. Clever maneuver.
Clever girl.
Yeah.
Clever girl.
I need me some
yeah.
Savage Worlds Star Trek.
Dude, yeah. And really, I've been waiting to give the Savage World system a try. Because 5e, it's I kind of get D&D,
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of cool things about the Savage World system. And hopefully, sometime soon, we'll be playing some games with Pinnacle on streams. I would love to do that.
Definitely.
So, watch out for that, guys. Go to
Watch out.
Go to peginc.com. Check out their books. Check out their different games because they have a ton. And they do Kickstarters all the time. They actually have a Kickstarter going on right now for something called Rifts, which I think is like kind of a way to bridge all of the Savage Worlds universes together in a way. I think I'm not exactly sure. It's they have just so much content.
Rifts is
overwhelming,
also
honestly.
a game system from the 80s, so maybe they're readapting it. And it's kind of like, it's a free-for-all of all kinds of junk. Like, mechs, magic, just like whatever comes from Rifts. It's like portals. If I'm not mistaken.
I saw something about I was on their Facebook group just kind of scanning through for a little bit, and I saw someone talking about how they have rules for playing as a dragon. So like, it must be out there, man. And I'm excited to give it a shot whenever they're ready for us, whenever they want to invite us into a game. I'm down. I'm ready to try this out. Honestly, I'm a little more excited about trying like a necessary evil.
Oh yeah,
more than anything, just because like I'm
superheroes,
right? Because actually, what we're doing with these Wendigo Tales is we're kind of like each of us is kind of taking charge of like a whole series of short stories. So like I took charge of Necessary Evil. Justin is taking charge of The Last Parsec. Gary is going to be taking charge of Weird Wars. So I mean, like, there's a lot of cool stuff, but I'm most familiar with Necessary Evil and those characters and those stories,
and the setting as well. The setting for Necessary Evil is really cool. It'd be cool to play a supervillain that's kind of forced into fighting for good.
Yeah, Yeah, and sort of, it seems to me that it'd be like more cutthroat gameplay rather than pure cooperation.
Yeah,
So,
definitely a different vibe.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys go check out peginc.com, peginc.com, and see what they all have to offer. Go to our website, download The Last Parsec, download Necessary Evil, and download Malevolent. All really good stuff. All like lots of free content now. We're throwing out a bunch of treats for you guys now. Lots of free content. We just want you guys to hang out with us and have a good time on our platform and get used to taking up our goodies. So,
yes.
Please,
It's all good fun.
We want you.
We
to
love
be
you.
happy.
We do love you. And I've been waiting until this moment to tell you.
Yeah.
But when I look into your eyes, collective audience, I see something that just soothes my soul and fills me with Kit Kats. I love Kit Kats too.
Yeah. Japanese ones with all the different flavors too.
Ooh, yeah. Like matcha Kit Kats.
Yeah. Oh, that would be. Oh, I haven't tried that, but that sounds.
I think that's a
perfect.
thing. I think it's a thing. Gary, you do have something on your face. Yes, it's my penetrating gaze.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say penetrating something else. All right. This was a fun time. Thank you guys for hanging out with us.
Thank you all, and thank you. Yes, thank you, John Wick. Thank you, Pinnacle. We'll see you next time.